with Nick Cattles.
What's going on? We are live on a Tuesday just after 12:15. He's Greg. I'm Nick. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Greg, another win down in New Orleans, down in the Bayou by the Patriots on Sunday. Let me start here. Was that an impressive win to you?
Wasn't impressive. In some respects, yes. I mean, we talked about it sort of going into this that, coming off of Buffalo, sort of feeling yourself. Do you get too high? Now you got to go on the road in a tough place to play against a team that I think is better than a lot of people thought going into this. They got healthier with Chase Young was back. Justin Reed was back. Cesar Ruiz was back on the offensive line to sort of solidify things, for the Saints. And so, I thought this was a good challenge. The game pretty much went the way, I expected. I figured it'd be a little bit of a rock fight in that, the Saints would make some plays against this Patriots defense that, has some issues in the passing game. The Saints have some talent there. Spencer Rattler's been, playing pretty well under Kellen Moore of late. The Patriots would be able to do some things against the Saints, defense as long as, Drake Maye got protected. It didn't exactly work out that way. But, look, Drake Maye was really, really good. Again, he was the difference in this game, not turning the ball over, making, again, a handful of elite plays in the game to sort of, lift this team. And so, I'm fine as far as the game on the impressive scale. I would say it was, pretty good. I wasn't blown away. It was, again, another, one score game against the Bills the previous week with all their penalties and, the Patriots coming ahead +2 in the turnovers. Even with all that and the quarterback playing well, it still went down to the end. You won by a field goal. This game, you sort of held on at the end. The Saints had a couple of chances to take the lead in the fourth quarter, but you made enough plays, whether it's Christian Ellis punching a ball out or Marcus Jones doing Marcus Jones things. I just don't, we know this Patriots team isn't uber talented,
Right.
Isn't going to run away from anybody. So a lot of these games are going to be like this, but as long as they don't make the big mistakes, which they didn't on the road, they'll be okay. So yeah, I was somewhat impressed with this victory.
Yeah, I don't think it was flawless by any means. I don't think it was close to being perfect. We have to remember where this team is. I know they're 4-2 and now in first place atop the AFC East on this Tuesday, but we have to be reasonable here and remember, what we were talking about before the season and where this team is roster-wise. It's far from being set, as we know. And, every week I feel like you should be ready for a dogfight. It's just the way it is. And I know New Orleans was kind of looked down upon, as you mentioned, Greg. You and I talked about it. They have more talent on that roster than some people might give them credit for. So, yeah, I thought it was a good professional win. Back-to-back road games, Sunday night, you fly home late. You got to travel again. It's not the shortest flight in the world to get down to New Orleans. It's a 12 p.m. local kickoff. There were a lot of logistical weird things that you had to get through, and I thought they did a good job of getting through those. You talked about Drake Maye. I know this has been a conversation, and I know you talked about this a little bit with Zanis after the game on Sunday. Drake Maye, to me, there's no doubt he's part of the MVP conversation. I would not say he's the MVP right now, but he has deserved to be in that discussion. I know you talked a little bit about his game in New Orleans, but what stood out to you the most about Sunday's game from Maye?
So, what stood out, I thought he was really good in the first half. I thought he basically, you put together the second half against the Bills and the first half against the Saints. I mean, we're talking, really upper echelon, quarterback play. Some of that was, Some of that was because of, Josh McDaniels, like the first DeMario Douglas touchdown. I mean, as a play caller, it doesn't get any better than that. I bet you the Patriots didn't practice it that well in the game, where they decide to take a shot near midfield, max protect across the board. You got double teams across the board. You put Hunter Henry in motion. So now Justin Reed comes now into the box. Now Sanker, the rookie who we talked about coming in, who's a good young player, but he's a rookie and a third-round rookie and a little over-aggressive. And then you say to Pop, like, we're going to get this schemed up. You're going to, nod to the corner, but then continue on the post. And it got Sanker turned around, boom, touchdown, out of the box. And that gets everybody, really excited. But I thought Drake made, in the first half, I think he made 5 really good throws. One upper level, the one to Kayshon Boutte was just insane. His ball placement was really good. It got a little erratic, I would say, in the second half. There were, a few things where he got a little bit loose, but I think that's a byproduct, Nick, of, this team can't run the ball consistently. He has no running game. It's basically him. There was a decent amount of pressure on him in this game. And, but I just, Drake manipulated the pocket really well. His 20-yard scramble, watching it on film, I had to keep finding it and be like, how the hell did he get out of there? I mean, because Stevenson does a good job of taking on the linebackers and he hits them low, but the linebackers like in Drake's feet, and yet he still found a way to get out and get 20 yards. So, really good at the line of scrimmage. He's a lot more comfortable manipulating the pocket. I didn't think he ran into a ton of pressure. That became more of an issue in the second half. But he just looks, really comfortable with what he's doing.
Yeah, the first Boutte touchdown, the biggest note to me about that is everybody's wondering, he is always making plays going to his right. Well, that one's going to his left. And, we also saw the Hunter Henry play against Carolina, which was going to Drake's left. So I don't think Drake is a one-trick pony and can only make plays rolling out to his right. I think he's proven that. It hasn't been as consistent because he hasn't had to do that going left as often. But we saw that. That was nice. The scramble, as you mentioned, Demario Davis blitzes and Ramondre Stevenson cut blocks instead of kind of goes for the stand-up block almost. And Davis lands right at the feet, as you said, at Maye. And Maye, tap dancing like Danny freaking K in the pocket somehow, some way, maneuvers around multiple defenders and squirts out for like a 20-yard run. And I thought, the fourth quarter series, it's a shame. I think we might look at this game even better from the point of view of Drake if, a couple of the pass interference calls on that third drive of the second half in the fourth quarter, because, the first one to Stephon Diggs down the sideline, man, oh man, is that a freaking throw. And it's a throw with Chase Young getting pressure on Will Campbell. He gets through Campbell, so Drake's got some pressure. It's a 3rd and 17, and he chucks a perfect bucket throw to Diggs, who made a fantastic catch, by the way. And then, of course, the very next play is 3rd and 18. Jared Wilson gives up a pressure, and Drake's getting hit in the pocket, and he delivers another perfect bucket throw, this time to Mac Hollins. So I thought, some of the best plays from Drake didn't count, unfortunately. And, of course, you look at the 3rd and 11, which sealed the game, which is a terrific back shoulder to Kayshon Boutte. I thought, again, there were those flash plays, Drake showing the clutch gene, which we have seen over and over and over again over the past few weeks. I do want to ask you.
Hang on one second. When was the Diggs OPI call? Did you say that was in the second half?
Yeah, he had 2 of them. Which one?
I'm looking on the play-by-play, and I don't.
You had the pop touchdown, which was negated, and then you had the 3rd and 17 when they called Diggs for barely touching the guy's shoulder pad. Yeah, that one.
But you said that was in the second half, or maybe the second.
No, the fourth quarter. Yeah, the Stephon Diggs down the sidelines when they called him for pushing off on the defensive back.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the very
by the way, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Yeah, that was so good. I mean, in my grading, and this goes for pressures, and also like I still gave them both credit for that play. It was that good. I also, yeah, I did not like that penalty call there. I didn't think that there was enough of a push off. There was definitely a push off, but unless sort of the line for the referees is if he extends his arm like
Yeah.
completely, that's a push off. He kind of gave it a little bit of a bent elbow. So yeah, I didn't love that one.
All right, let's jump to the run game. Oh, before we get to the run game, I've got I think it's interesting. I'm biased. I'm asking the question. I've got an interesting question, I think, for you. As we evaluate Drake Maye, um, I don't want to say take for granted, but when do you start, Greg, when you watch film and everything, when do you start thinking to yourself, all right, this is who he is. We're going to start grading him maybe on a different, I know you don't grade on a curve, but
Right.
we're going to start looking at Drake Maye as, no, he's a top 10 guy. Like, is there a certain point, like number of games, number of halves? Not, because obviously you could say the last 4 or 5 weeks, the guy has been, certainly since the Pittsburgh game, he's been a top 5 quarterback in pretty much every single metric. But when do you feel confident as an evaluator saying that's what you can almost expect from Drake Maye?
That's a good question. Like you said, I don't really grade that way. I don't look at things that way.
Yeah.
Like this is why I grade every single game, every single play without, like I don't really use like, how big the situation is outside of like downs, like third down conversions. I definitely like, factor that in. But it's an interesting discussion as far as, what I expect of him. I mean, because we talked about going into this, he was on a 4-game heater. It's now a 5-game heater. Um, uh, you know, I guess I would have to say that. I expect this of him now. I mean, it's not realistic. I mean, this is where they are, Nick. I mean, this as a football team where they are is if if Drake Maye is playing well and he takes care of the football himself, um, they'll be in every single game. Is it reasonable to expect that of him every week? I'm not ready to say that yet because he is still really young, and I think I don't think he's come close to his ceiling. And also because of the way the game played, and the way this team plays, and you could almost see it towards the end of the game. Like, yes, the back shoulder throw to Kayshon Boutte was unbelievable throw, unbelievable catch. Two guys, knowing each other. That was great. But some of the plays before that, you sort of got the sense like on the drive previous, when they got to Stevenson for -3, which seemed to be happening all the time, 2nd and 13, incomplete deep left to Kyle Williams.
Yeah.
That was that play, those two plays. If you go back and watch, like, look at Drake Maye, sort of, he drifted in the pocket, and also his shoulders were parallel to the line of scrimmage as he didn't really need to manipulate the pocket like that. But these are the sort of, bad habits that he had at North Carolina. A lot of people talked about him drifting in the pocket, drifting into pressure. I'm not saying like, it's a problem, but because I have confidence that Josh McDaniels is going to be on top of it, and any sort of like loose things like this, they're going to be on top of it. And Drake wants to be coached hard. But, I think the more the running game doesn't work, the more that the defense sort of stays on the field, and the other team, this was another game with the other teams driving into Patriots territory on almost every possession. I think it was 7 straight possessions that the Saints finished in Patriots territory. You just wonder if, Drake starts to put a little bit more on himself and says that, like, I'm going to have to do these things. I'm going to have to win. I'm grateful, and I'm happy that he wants to take that on, but that's when you start getting, these quarterbacks, whether it's Mahomes or Josh Allen, and we've all seen these games that they've played where they're not running the ball, the defense isn't stopping anybody. they just try to make plays, and that's
Yeah.
when they try to start forcing things and turnovers, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, here we are again. But no, I think I expect Drake to play efficiently and to take care of the ball, and if he doesn't, it's not a huge deal for me at this point in time.
I feel like I'm at the point, or I'm getting to the point where I'm just accepting some of the not so great from time to time, and not necessarily fearing that that's what he's going to become, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, as you mentioned, the Kyle Williams play and the Pop Douglas miss towards the boundary where he threw behind him. Those are back-to-back throws. I thought that was his roughest stretch of the game, because it was back-to-back throws, and it didn't look good. But I said I was not fearing the next time he goes out there that he's going to be sailing passes over the guy's head, right? So I think I'm at the point where it's like, okay, if you watch quarterback play around the league, and you have to understand, even Baker Mayfield, who I think, I talked about this last week, I think he's absolutely an MVP candidate. I would have him towards the top of my list because of what he's been dealing with, the adversity with the injuries and all that. But you'll see this. You're just going to see this from quarterbacks. It's kind of the evolution at the position. And it's not to excuse the mistakes, but you have some of the wild swings. You'll have a play where you watch, you go, oh my God, I can't believe the guy just did that. And, the flip play to Travion Henderson on Sunday, one of those plays, right? Even kind of the throwaway with the left hand at one point. The play against the Bills where he's, his knee is millimeters from the ground and somehow he gets it to Diggs. Like, you're going to see the wild, oh my God, he just did that. And I think you got to live with the, oh my God, he just did that. Like, you're saying the same thing, but the emphasis is different. And I think that's kind of quarterback play in 2025, where, if you can get the highest of highs, you hope it's, enough to get you to the promised land, because you got to deal with some of the lows. And Patrick Mahomes is, I've said this for years, and it's not to discredit Patrick Mahomes, who's obviously the best quarterback of his generation. You could look at this and say, hey, go back a few years ago, and Patrick Mahomes has the most dropped interceptions in the NFL. Go to this throw, go to that throw, go to Monday night against Jacksonville, where he throws it right to a defender on the 1 yard line. These things happen, man. It's no longer like, and if we're comparing him to Tom Brady, that's going to be a huge mistake. So just kind of look at NFL quarterback play around the league and understand that's kind of the nature of where we're at. And you just hope that he doesn't make a ton of mistakes and he loses you games. That's just kind of where I'm at. I'm not fearing it, but I'm kind of embracing and understanding those things are going to happen. All right, we got to get to a lot more offensively, but first, Greg wants to get to PrizePicks.
Absolutely. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. And this week, not just football, of course, they have all the sports. And this week, they're until the 21st, they are running a special where you get a free square, basically. If Steph Curry scores more than, as long as he scores a point, you get that box. And all you need is one more, and you can cash in. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Play PrizePicks to get action on football in more than 40-plus states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and, of course, us here in Massachusetts. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So you can be pants off for Drake Maye and have 3 different stats for Drake Maye if you think he is the man and is on his way to being a top MVP candidate, which he is. Want more on Drake Maye's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, only on PrizePicks. On PrizePicks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. If you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play, no matter your play. PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right.
And for those listening, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. For those watching the show live right now, especially, go ahead and hit that like button. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel where you can find our show and a lot of other great Patriots content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. And you don't want to forget to check out all the coverage. Boston Sports Journal, $50 for the year. Greg and Mike Giardi tag teaming on the Patriots with film and the best sources around. Broken record. But we got to keep talking about it. We keep talking about how great Drake Maye's been. We got to keep talking about how bad the run game's been. What went wrong, Greg, with the run game again against the Saints?
Yeah, just to give some people some context on how bad the Patriots rushing attack has been. This is where they are. I was just looking through stats. They are 23rd in explosive rush rate, 24th in rushes for 0 or negative yards. It's been getting worse every week. It was 20% versus Carolina, 27% against Buffalo, 39% against the Saints, 29th in rush yards over expected, 30th in rush success rate, 32nd in EPA for rush. They are 16th in yards before contact, 31st in yards after contact, which we will talk about in a second. DVOA, they are 32nd in rush DVOA. Out of 50 rushers, offensive rush success, Travion Henderson is 40th, Stevenson is 46th. Yards before contact, Stevenson is 23rd, Henderson 29th. Yards after contact, Henderson is 39th, Stevenson is 50th. Rush yards over expected, Stevenson is 39th, Henderson is 48th. So that's just to give you a little bit of context.
That was fun. We appreciated that, Greg. Thank you.
I will say this about the rushing attack. I do think that they're getting closer. There's no easy solution to this. Like if people think if they went out there and traded for Bijan Robinson or something, who looked awesome last night, by the way, and should also be up there for among the talk for MVP candidates. They're going to have to stay patient with it. They got to keep doing it. They need time on task. It's a little bit of everything. Like, I don't think when I look at this, I don't think that, when I watch this on film, and what I do is when the back gets to the line, and then I sort of hit pause and I look and I'm like, well, and this is sort of where the rush yards over expected comes from, because they're monitoring how close guys are and things like that. I look at it and I'm like, why did this play only gain 3 yards? And then you look at even some 7-yard runs. You're like, well, that could have went for 20. It's a little bit, of everything. I think both backs are definitely running a little tentative because of the turnover thing. That's not helping. They're not finishing enough blocks like they can. I think the plays are designed fine on the most part. Some of them, Josh McDaniels isn't going to bat 100 or 1,000. But I say for the most part, you don't see oh my God, there's 4 guys in his face. That thing's going nowhere. Most of the time there's a hat on the hat. They have good angles. Don't have any big runs because either the runners either aren't running free or they just don't finish enough blocks to get them free. When I looked at this game, this is how I came up with, in terms of in my grading on some of the runs where I put negative grades down, this was the distribution. Garrett Bradbury factored in on 6. Jared Wilson factored in on 5. Michael Wenu factored in on 4. Will Campbell 3, Stevenson 3, Henderson 2, Stephon Diggs 1, Hunter Henry 1, Morgan Moses none. I will say on the tight ends, we talked about it last week. Yeah. Henry and Hooper were a disaster. I thought we talked about it. I thought that they might be because the Saints aren't great on the edge, sort of like the Patriots, pretty good on the interior. I do wonder if the tight ends having to go against, and Josh McDaniels talked about going into this game, they're really big on the end. And, the Patriots had enough trouble with the Bills on the end, who aren't the biggest team. And then now you're going up against Chase Young and Granderson and Cam Jordan. I think they looked at it and be like, do we want to do we want to put Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper in that position? And is that a way for us to live? I think maybe you also have to look at it that, do the wear and tear on the tight ends, if they're having to be involved in it, can you do that every game? Where Hunter Henry last week, he was heavily involved. Can you do that every week? Is he going to survive? So yeah, it's been bad. It's a little bit of everything. I don't think it's a lost cause. I don't think it's any one thing. They just need one of these games. And, maybe it's against the Titans, who are not good DVOA run defense. Maybe this is the week where, they hit, things come together. The timing comes together, getting to the second level, which has been an issue, getting the right angles. If all that comes back and it comes together and they have a good game, I think everybody will relax. But I do also want to point this out, Nick, and I do think this is a factor, and this is not going to be probably a popular opinion. But, when you look at the 5 guys up front, outside of Will Campbell, how many ass kickers do you really have up there? I would say none. Not that they're not good. I think Jared Wilson is good, but a super nice guy. Is he going to bite somebody's kneecap off? Is he going to finish guys to the ground and be angry and stick an elbow into their throat? Is Garrett Bradbury going to do that? I think it's safe to say at this point, David Andrews, which was much more of an a-hole on game day than Garrett Bradbury is. Michael Wenu, I don't think I've ever seen him pancake anybody in his life. And then you got Morgan Moses on the right side, who's doing a good job. Just like I said, I didn't have him for any negative runs, but run blocking is not really his thing. Super nice guy. But this is who they have, and they got to figure it out. But I don't think it's a lost cause, and I don't think they're all that far away.
I don't want to add too much. I actually talked about this in depth on the Locked On Patriots episode that was released today. So if you want specific examples, I go through a number of examples because I wanted to pay close attention on my rewatch this week on the run game and on the offensive line. And I'll just point out a couple things here. Jared Wilson was not good in the run game. He's got some issues there. And I'll give you an example. Greg talked about there are plays that you watch and you say to yourself, man, if this happened, if X happened, that's a 20-yard run. That's a 15-yard run. But instead, it's a 3-yard run. And the perfect example was the second quarter. It was the third drive for the Patriots offense. It's a 1st and 10. And Jared Wilson misses his second level block. Mm-hmm. And if Jared Wilson is able to sustain, if he's able to make and sustain that block on the second level, Ramondre probably goes for about 20 yards. He might even take it to the house. I'd have to look at the secondary, but he absolutely gets at least 10 more yards. And it's Wilson who doesn't sustain his block on the second level. And then you've got other issues. I mean, it really is equal opportunity. Where it feels like, Diggs missed. I had him for 2 misses. I thought he completely whiffed on a Justin Reed blitz and didn't pick him up quick enough and allowed Reed to hit the hole in the fourth quarter. I thought he whiffed on another block earlier in the game. So, you look at some of the Stephon Diggs misses. Actually, both of his misses that I had were fourth quarter. One was on the fourth drive and one was on the final drive of that half. Michael Wenu, he's odd because he'll look fine and then he'll just completely get dominated for 2 or 3 snaps. And
yeah.
Quarter,
for example, with Wenu, I only have him for 4 negative plays in the game.
Yeah.
But like we talked about before, all of them are freaking crushing. I mean, they're all in horrible spots, and you're just like,
yeah,
dude, what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, there's a 2nd and 7 in the fourth quarter when I'm sure some people remember this. He gets just absolutely blown up by Bullard, and Bullard's in the backfield. As soon as the back gets the ball. But you also have other plays where, Ramondre doesn't see a cutback lane and it's a 3-yard loss when it might, or a 1-yard gain when it could have been 5 yards. The perfect, one of the things, if you want to go back, it's if anybody wants to go back again, quickly, third quarter, first drive, right out of halftime, you've got a 2nd and goal. 2nd and goal, pivotal play here. And it ends up screwing up the entire drive. It's the play before Drake inexplicably takes a delay of game. It's a 2nd and goal, and Jared Wilson is pulling on that play, and Will Campbell is going to try to cut block the defensive lineman.
Yep.
And as Wilson pulls, Campbell misses the cut block, which leaves a wide open gap on the left side. Yep. Meanwhile, Morgan Moses completely swings and misses on his block. So you have the left side crumbling and the right side crumbling at the same time on a 2nd and goal. And, the expected result, a 3-yard loss on a goal line play. So that's just, some of the examples where it's really across the board. Sometimes it's the back, sometimes it's the O-line, sometimes it's the receivers, as Greg's mentioned, sometimes it's the tight ends. I'll also say sometimes it's Josh McDaniels. I thought in the second half, he was incredibly predictable. I thought a lot of the game they called for 3 runs out of shotgun. One of them didn't count because it was the holding penalty on the defense against Will Campbell. I thought Josh was way too predictable in the second half. I thought he called for first down runs way too often, especially when you kept seeing your offensive line. I mean, 1st and 10, Garrett Bradbury gets destroyed by old friend Devon Godshaw. And the very next first down, you call another run play, and that's when Stephon Diggs misses his block. And, Demario Davis takes care of Morgan Moses, and you get a 3-yard loss. I just thought, Josh was way too predictable, and I thought there were way too many first down runs when it wasn't working in the second half. And I thought he should have changed things up a little bit. Andrew Callahan from the Boston Herald does a great job. Rushing on first down, had a 29% success rate against the Saints, while first down passes had an 80% success rate. And McDaniels ends up calling 5 straight first down runs to finish the game. And I think that's an inexplicable miss by McDaniels. And I think McDaniels, look, I'm in the McDaniels school. I think he's been great for most of this season, but I thought he let the offense down in the second half. I didn't love what he did.
Yeah, I didn't have a big problem with it. I mean, I know because, well, for a couple of different reasons. Well, number one, a lot of those decisions are made by the head coach. Like, the Patriots were up. They came out and they got the field goal to start the second half. So now they're up 9. And, I'm sure Mike Vrabel is like, let's try to run the ball. And plus, there's also been how many times were there early on in the season when, Drake might be turning the ball over and people are complaining about, like, they didn't call enough runs in the second half. Like, I didn't have a huge problem with it. I mean, that the third quarter they get the ball at their own 24. Henderson for 4, Henderson for 5. Now it's 3rd and 1. And, the Saints sort of got the Patriots on a call. They probably got a little bit lucky in that they dropped the end. And, Henderson, it looked like he was supposed to cut the end, but then he didn't know what to do.
I'm laughing because I think it was Andrew Callahan. I think I quote tweeted it or retweeted it. That play you're talking about, I think it was Callahan. He said that Henderson Madden glitched. And
I was about to say
if you watch the play,
yeah,
Henderson's just out in the flat and he's squatting like he's blocking, but he's blocking nobody. He's just stuck. He's stuck doing nothing. He's not blocking anybody. He's not going out for a route. It was really, really weird.
Right. And that's just a young player, just into his career where they probably hadn't even been over that scenario where, if the end drops, they're like, there's no chance that the end drops. Well, if the end drops, then this is what you do. Well, now after watching it, now you just like, cause I was going to say the same thing. It looked like a video game glitch where he's just like, blocking somebody that's not there. It's like Madden 95 or something like that. And you would have loved for him to turn around and just be like, Drake just could have flipped on the ball. He would have gotten 5 yards in the first down, but he just hasn't been told that yet. Man. So it's not really, his fault, but, when we talk about play calling, we've talked about this before, from having been on the inside with the Houston Texans and Bill O'Brien in terms of how they game plan and why they do things. Like, I remember coming out of there, I was like, I'm never really second guessing a play call. There's a reason why they do certain things. There's they expect certain things from the defense. You can't have you can't with a 9-point lead, and and I've heard this. I heard Phil Perry talking about this on the post game show and stuff, where it's like, you know, first down passes were really successful for you. Yeah, well, I mean, if you're not going to burn clock and keep your defense off the field, which has been on the field a lot and can't keep the Saints from getting into Patriots territory, like, when are you going to run the ball? You know, if you want to get better in the run game, when are you going to get better? By throwing all the time?
I think there's a balance, right? There's a balance. You do have to run. You do have to try to run. You do have to burn the clock. But, you know, 5 straight runs on first down when every single one of them is getting absolutely mollywopped, probably not the greatest thing. I do agree with you. You know, Mike Vrabel does have a part of this, right? He does deserve some part of the blame here because the head coach is on the headset and he can pop in and say, hey, Josh, look, we're getting murdered on first down in the run game.
Yep.
Maybe we want to do a little less of that here. Maybe we want to sprinkle in a play action pass. Maybe we can call a safe screenplay. I also didn't love, and I don't know the details, all the details behind it, but I wasn't in love with that 3rd and 13 play. I think it was 3rd and 13 where the throw was at the sticks to Diggs. To Pop. And I think that was the one we were talking about earlier. And they were almost in field goal range. And I thought, you know, maybe a little bit of a safer play call there, maybe a wide receiver screen, maybe something that you can get 5 or 6 yards and set up a field goal. But it felt like they went for it all. I don't know if that was on Drake again, but it was interesting. All right, we got to get to the defense.
Yeah, hang on just one second, just as we're talking about this, because I'm just looking at it.
Sure.
In terms of the first down runs, you know, I mean, they weren't that bad. You look at it, open the third quarter, Stevenson for 3, Henderson for 6. Yeah. The other first down run was the Maye scramble for 20 yards down to the 2.
Look, I'll just say this. I'll say this because we got to get to the defense and you got to get to Felger Maz. I know where you're going with this. I will say, look, I thought the first half, the run game wasn't that bad. If you watch the game over again, the run game wasn't terrible in the first half. And I thought first down, they popped a couple of decent runs. It really started to fall apart. There was the goal line scenario was a disaster. And then in the fourth quarter, that's where the run game fell off a cliff. It was inside the 5, that first drive of the second half. And then in the fourth quarter, the first down runs, that's where a lot of it was bad. But you could argue most of the first 3 quarters, their early down run game wasn't that bad. And I also thought they should have played Henderson more, but I digress. All right, we got to get to the defense. Before we get there, CLNS Media Network, Celtics All Access, CLNS for behind-the-scenes content, the NBA History Channel. We talked about Patriots Press Pass, and don't forget about the Bruins Ringside. Bruins 3-1 after the loss yesterday. Jeremy Swayman looking fantastic. And also don't forget, PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All right. Defensively, Greg, let's run through this. Do you think they were too aggressive to start versus Rattler?
You mean the corner blitz that put Kyle Duggar, who can't cover, who played like 1 snap the week before?
Does a bear shit in the woods, Greg? Does a bear shit in the woods?
I mean, it's just unbelievable. And like, you know, they got him on some stuff. They had that overload blitz that they used against, which again, and it was successful. I think that when Marcus Jones got the sack, you know, Marcus Jones also factored in sort of on a blitz where he got hung up on the final play. You know, when Rattler threw high the final 2 times before they had to punt, never got the ball back. I didn't think that they were over aggressive. Like, I only had them for 6 blitzes in the game. That I haven't checked it up against the advanced analytics. Sometimes I miss it. I get, you know, caught up in the film, and sometimes I miss some stuff. You know, I didn't think it was that bad. I just think that this is a team that, you know, has a tough time in zone and has a tough time in the middle of the field. And if you get a team that likes to live there or is going to pepper, and you get a guy like Spencer Rattler, who's just going to take the quickest, most open guy as soon as possible and get it to him for, like, you know, 3 air yards, and then he falls forward a couple times, you know, they're going to have a little bit of a tough time. But, like, yeah, I mean, the Kyle Duggar play was just, it was ridiculous.
I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe they started with the Carlton Davis blitz off the edge, leaving Kyle Duggar on an island against Chris Olave. I couldn't believe it. I almost fell off the couch. I almost passed out. I almost fainted. I couldn't believe it. I do think the Patriots, I'll give Zach Core credit here. I do think they were less aggressive in the second half.
Yeah.
And I think that paid big time dividends. And I think he did a really good job of timing some of the blitzes that he sent, especially Marcus Jones's blitz on a pivotal third down. So I thought they were better defensively in the second half again, which is a trend. The defense starts off slow. First half is usually not very good. And then they kind of find their ass and they play better in the second half. They inevitably, somehow, some way, by the luck of the football gods, keep a team 20 points or under. Almost somehow they do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was credit to the Patriots red zone defense or, criticize the Saints red zone offense, because the Saints came into the game as one of the worst red zone offenses in football. I think they were the third worst. So it's probably a mixture of both. But somehow, again, is it pretty? No. But if you keep a team to 20 points or under, you should win those games, especially the way Drake Maye's playing quarterback. And that's what's happening week after week, 3 weeks in a row. And it would have happened against Pittsburgh if it wasn't for the 5 turnovers. So if you keep them at 20 or under, you got a shot. Zach Core, how do you feel about him so far as a play caller, given the circumstances, Greg?
I think he's doing okay. I will say in general about the defense, like I feel better about it. What's interesting is, when I watched the film, there are 2 opinions that I had sort of coming out of the game. Drake Maye was unreal again, and the defense stinks. And they're just lucky that Spencer Rattler's not that good. And, even though he had a career day against the Patriots, I think it was his second best passer rating of all time, tops in completion percentage. He was second in completion percentage over expected behind Drake Maye this week. But when I watched the film, I thought Drake Maye was really good. I didn't think he was exceptional. I thought he was better in the Buffalo game. And I didn't think the defense was that bad. Like, I don't see the breakdowns that I was frustrated with, like against the Dolphins and, against the Steelers a little bit. Like, some of the breakdowns, you're just like, what is going on? Like, I think Woodson's getting, better and more comfortable, and that's helping things. But as far as Kerr, like, I think you're right. I like that I think Marcus Jones hides because he's so small. Like, they don't see him coming. He sort of hides behind what's going on at the line. And I think he totally surprised them on that sack. He also had sort of a faux pressure, like I said, in that final third down when Rattler threw high and a little bit late. I think Marcus Jones influenced that. I think he's doing fine. Nothing's really stood out. He hits sometimes, he misses sometimes. I think really what this defense, it looks like, Nick, now that we have 6 games, it just looks like this team is going to try to make, they're going to try to influence one negative play a series. And then, according to analytics, the chances of that team punting at some point in time, it skyrockets if you can get a negative play. So I think the Patriots, their goal is to get one big negative play per series, and everything else they're going to live with.
It's a fascinating takeaway. And we know that Vrabel with his boy Stretch, pretty heavy into analytics. And that would be another one of those that Greg just gave you. Maybe that's kind of, you look at the numbers and you say, hey, if we can get one big negative play, we ruin the drive. And if you have enough of those and you ruin enough drives, you'll win the football game. I think a couple things here. I agree with you on Woodson. Obviously, Gonzalez helps. It's not like he changes the world like we talked about, but he does help. And I think the linebackers, look, Robert Spillane has played so much better after the first couple weeks.
Yep.
And after taking a dump on Christian Ellis through the first month or so, I will say, I said it last week, I thought he was good against Buffalo, and I thought he was pretty good against the Saints. So they're not perfect. They're going to give up some plays in coverage. But, you look at the linebacker play, it's been much more steady the past couple weeks. And one more thing is I think I saw from multiple people. Doug Kyde might have been the first one that had it. But I think the Patriots were charted for 2 missed tackles the entire game. And so that's another big part of this where, they're swarming to the football. They're not giving up a ton of yak. And, we saw that in the Buffalo game where they didn't allow Khalil Shakir to go crazy or James Cook to go crazy after contact. So they're playing better on the second level. I think the third level is going to continue to get better with Gonzalez as long as he can stay healthy. And as you said, Woodson getting better as well. Maybe we get something here, the final, 5-6 games from this defense. Maybe it is a situation where, it gradually gets better and we're looking the final month and a half feeling pretty decent about it. All right. I know you don't want to talk about this, so just let me go here for 60 seconds. The officiating sucked. The officiating sucked. It was brutal. It was embarrassing. It was a joke. The league should be absolutely embarrassed by what that crew did on Sunday. It was inexplicable, the first offensive pass interference call on Stephon Diggs from 40 yards away. The explanation was even more ridiculous if you read it after. I have no idea what the hell Adrian Hill was trying to babble about. The ref saw a block down field before and he had to process it, and the flag comes out after the extra point's almost about to go down. I thought it was outrageous. I thought the officiating was outrageous. And I thought, yes, they missed a couple calls. They also hosed New Orleans a couple times, but I thought the Patriots by far had the toughest whistle in that game. The 3 pass interference calls alone wiped out gigantic gains and a touchdown. I mean, they got the 2-point conversion wrong when Drake Maye, almost half of his body is over the goal line. They got the fumble wrong. That was a terrible crew. It's not just Patriots games. It's a terrible crew. Adrian Hill should be held accountable. That should never happen in an NFL game, and it especially should never happen in an NFL game when everybody and their mother is gambling on these games. And you can't have a crew that does that. That was inexcusable. I mean, that was some of the worst officiating I've seen. And I watch a lot of football. It was that bad. It was that egregious. Yep. So, enough. All right.
Let me just say, I am very thankful that the Patriots won that game because I did not want to have to talk about the officiating for 3 days. I agree. It was terrible. It went both ways. I thought the Patriots got the short end of the stick a little bit more, but there was some stuff with you just mentioned the fumble. I don't know if you're talking about the Saints fumble or Drake Maye's
Jawan Johnson.
Yeah. I did not understand how that was a fumble. And, there was some, like you said, the Saints got some of it too. But I'm just thankful the Patriots won the game. I'm thankful that on the Stephon Diggs phantom OPI, they ended up scoring on that drive. So, because I didn't want to talk about the officiating. So I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
All worked out in the end.
You can't wipe away, what was it, like a 60-yard touchdown? You can't wipe away a play on a phantom call. Like you just. And we see it from time to time across the league. It's not just the Patriots problem. It's a league problem. Some of it's the rule book being thicker than the Bible. And you have some of these subjective calls and some of the refs, get all excited. They got a hair across their ass for some of these plays. And it's just, you can't see what you saw on Sunday. And that goes for any team. It just, you can't see it. You can't see that type of officiating in a pro sport when there are billions of dollars on the line every freaking Sunday. You can't. The NFL has to ask. They have to ask for better from their crew, and they got to keep that crew accountable. That crew should not. I'm serious. That crew should not officiate this weekend. They should be taken off the schedule. It was that bad. You need some kind of accountability. These pool report questions when you ask them.
All right. All right. Here we go. Yeah. All right.
I know.
Let's
go. See, I try to move on and you kept going and you got me riled up now.
I just wanted to get, I think people want to hear my 2 cents. I wanted to get my 2
I'm at 100, Greg. So, I'm at 100 now. Like,
let's go. Let's go up, down.
Keep them accountable. That's what else. Just keep them accountable. We keep the players accountable and the coaches accountable. The league needs to step up and keep these.
All right, Nick. Okay.
All right. Guys who were not good in this game, Greg. Go ahead.
Guys who were not good. Travion Henderson, Garrett Bradbury, Garrett Wilson. I'm not going to put Will Campbell on the list, but he wasn't great either. Nobody in the receivers. Up front, on the defense, everybody was pretty good. Linebackers, they were all pretty good outside of Tavai. I did not think he was very good in this game. I didn't like Carlton Davis in this game. Didn't love Gonzalez, but he was okay. And of course, Kyle Duggar giving up 53 yards on cover 3 when he never got to cover 3. So those are the guys who did not play well in this game. The guys who played really well, sort of the standouts. Drake Maye, of course. Nobody on the offensive line, but it would be between Morgan Moses and Michael Wenu, but I cannot with good conscience name a Wenu when he blows 4 run blocks in a game and he's getting paid like $1 bazillion a year. Make a run block. Kayshawn Booty, Demario Douglas were really good. Mac Hollins was pretty good too, had a couple of big contested catches. Kaylavon Chason had him for 7 pressures in this game. Milton Williams was goodish. Christian Barmore was goodish. Kyrus Tonga was, again, a beast. That dude is awesome, as everybody
Monster.
knows. Robert Spillane, very good in this game. And, of course, Marcus Jones, who is probably right there with Drake Maye. We'll see how the rating comes out in terms of snaps played on who's going to get the game ball for this game. But Marcus Jones was a beast. I mean, he factored into 5 game-ending plays. And he factored in on all 4 plays where it ended up with a field goal. He got the stop or factored in on 3rd down. They kicked field goals. He was as vital as Drake Maye was in this game.
All right, there you have it. The bad, the good, the goodish, the baddish. And I got a rant off my chest about that terrible officiating crew. All right, everybody enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. We're back later in the week to preview the game against the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel goes back to Tennessee as they fire their head coach, Brian Callahan. What timing? We'll talk to you later in the week. He's Greg. I'm Nick. Bye-bye.